I am the chess strategist, and today we're going to win another chess game. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of our chess speedrun. Today we're going to be playing another 10 plus 5 rapid game. In our last game, we played the Ruy Lopez against an opponent who was very well versed in the opening theory, and we got a very theoretical position. We were able to outplay our opponent with a awesome tactic that won us a queen. And today I'm hoping that we're having another interesting game. So yeah, let's just get right into it. And I have been enjoying playing chess so much. It's been basically the thing I've been doing for fun. I've been trying to improve my openings, improve my gameplay, and also just make content for you guys that you'll enjoy. And I'm so happy that everyone's been enjoying our recent videos. I've only gotten some positive comments, so it's actually amazing to see. And our opponent does play e4. We are going to go with the Caro-Kann. Caro-Kann starts with c6. And our opponent does go with knight to c3. And we will go with d5 again. Caro-Kann, c6, d5. That's the plan. They go with the two knights, Caro-Kann. And there's a few different ways you can play this. The one that I like to play is called the Mindeno variation, I believe, where you go bishop to g4. And you just get your bishop outside the pawn chain every single time. You're going to play e6. You're going to move your knights to the center of the board, and we're going to be chilling. And this bishop is usually your worst piece in the Caro-Kann. It's just not a great piece, generally, because you just want to get it outside the pawn chain. Get it out of there, get rid of it. Here, we can get rid of it, or we have the option of dropping it back. Now, do I want to allow my opponent to play g4 and knock our bishop back even further to g6? It's okay here. I'm not super enthused by that. Maybe we can drop our bishop back. Entice our opponent, hey, if you want to create some weaknesses on the king side, that's completely fine with me. He hasn't castled there yet, though, so I'm not sure if that's really where, if it's really going to be that big of a deal for him. I don't know. He does go for it. Okay. He goes for g4, and we're going to have to drop our bishop back to g6, and let's see if he decides to go for h4 as well, trying to trap our bishop. Now in that position, we're going to have to create a Luft square for our bishop. By playing h6, we're going to create another square. But yeah, our bishop now is pretty much on the best diagonal it can be on. So I'm really chilling here. We're also just kind of threatening to take now. So our opponent is going to have to defend his pawn, probably with d3, I would think. d3 seems like the move to me. Or you can just take. That's also a move. Completely viable, in my opinion. And sorry about that. I need to plug in my phone. Okay. Phone has been plugged in, and we are going to take back with the c-pawn, as you do in the Caro-Kann. And play e6 as soon as we can, allowing our dark square bishop to develop. And here I am noticing this pawn is going to become a weakness if our opponent doesn't do anything about it. We're just going to develop our knight and threaten to take, or threaten to just take back like this. So we're not worried about this kind of threat. His bishop is just not that good. Usually it can be good in the Caro-Kann, but he's not developed it properly. I'm not super worried about it. This check is, in most cases, not a big deal. Alright, and our opponent does commit to d4, which is a big commitment in these kind of positions. Usually, if they play this two knights Caro-Kann, they don't always commit to d4. Maybe they go d3. But here he's committed d4, and that's made this pawn weak. And this pawn also is probably going to belong on c3 in these kind of positions. But he still has his knight blocking that square, so yeah, not really super concerning. Now here, I'm not super concerned about this capture. I'm not super concerned about this either. We're just going to move our queen so that he doesn't win a pawn. Cover this square again. And yeah, in the Caro-Kann, it's not always favorable to trade pieces, but A lot of the time, if white's using a lot of their turns to... Well, how do I explain this? Basically, if you know anything about the French defense, in the French defense, basically you play e6 immediately, and you cover up your bishop, and you expose your position to a lot of struggles because your bishop is going to be stuck always behind the pawn chain. So the idea of the Caro-Kann is you get your bishop outside the pawn chain, then you play e6, and you've got better development. The only problem is it takes a lot longer to play the Caro-Kann than it does to play the French. The French you can just play immediately. You get a very strong defensive position. So it takes a little longer to get your pieces developed in the Caro-Kann than it does in another opening. So when our opponent wants to trade off all these pieces, it's nullifying the lead in development that white gets. White gets a little bit of a lead in development in the Caro-Kann, and it's because you have to take all these tempo to make sure that your pieces get active. And you have to play this bishop outside the pawn chain and then play e6, and then you have to play all these moves before you can castle. So him trading all the pieces is kind of saying, hey, we can trade all the pieces and then we're going to have an equal position. Not only that, but white's position is not going to be favorable if all the pieces are traded. Black's going to be able to challenge white's center. Black's center is solid, and white has pawn weaknesses on the king side and a really unsafe king if he goes king side. So he's going to have to go queen side if he wants a super safe king. And yeah, it just does not look good for my opponent in these kind of positions. I'm just not enthused by anything that I'm seeing from his camp here. And here we're just going to develop our bishop kind of with tempo. We're threatening to take and take. And maybe he'll just take first. And we're still going to win a tempo if he takes the knight here. He decides to trade like this, which is fine with me. And now he's opened up the file for our rook, which is immediately in the game now. And the rook is going to be a strong piece. The first reason it's a strong piece is he can't castle. There's no castling anymore. Buddy, you can't castle anymore. What are you going to do? I mean, is he going to go long, where our queen is already on the file, and our knight's going to jump in, our rook's going to come to this file, we're going to just attack him? Or is he going to go kingside, where he can't even castle? He's going to have to move this pawn or do something to defend this pawn before. Because if he castles, we just win a free pawn, and our rook's going to be involved in the game, and it's going to be very simple for us. So, yeah, I think our opponent here is really losing the plot, and he is going to go queenside. And, you know, the only reason I think that it's okay that he goes queenside here is because he literally can't do anything else. He has to go queenside. He can't castle kingside. So, yeah, I really do not like my opponent's position here. I think that he is making very grave error here by just not committing his king to a side of the board before it's too late. And I'm thinking maybe now we can exchange here. I'm liking the trade of these light square, the dark square bishop for the knight. If he castles here, we are going to be able to trade and favorably double the pawns. And again, he can break. But again, that's not too big of a deal. Here we're going to jump our knight out. Our king's going to go up. We want to move our king up, breaking the pin, allowing our other knight to move. I won't be surprised if he castles here, and he does. And here we are going to take. And jump our knight to the center of the board here. Creating a double attack. Now, again, bishop is defending, yes. But this bishop is stuck defending. This bishop sucks. It's defending this pawn. If he loses this pawn, it's with a fork on the rooks. It's terrible for him. So this rook is also kind of sucking. It just has to defend this pawn. And we're seeing these pawn weaknesses that our opponent has created are really biting him in the butt. He doesn't have very many options, and he's forced to make a lot of weakening moves. So alright, we're going to put our rook on the c-file here. And our king kind of wants to get out of the way. Our king is kind of obstructing our rooks right now. It's also just kind of in the way. I'm thinking this a6 move is going to come very soon. Opponent may also decide to go for this move here, which is an option, knocking our knight back. But again, we are going to be able to reroute this knight through many options. There's many squares our knight can reroute through. Alright, and opponent has dropped back, we're challenging his bishop, and we're trying to see what he does. He has to drop it back to a4 take. He decides to take, and we're going to take with our queen, of course, threatening checkmate in one move. Noticing that he has to defend this pawn. This rook cannot jump over, because if it does, it will be traded for the knight, and we are going to be up in exchange. That would be poor for our opponent. And his pieces are just atrocious here. I really don't know what to say. Our knight is restricting him heavily. And I think his idea is he wants to knock our knight. We're going to jump it back. He's going to do here. We're going to drop our queen back, and we're going to trade rooks. If that doesn't happen, we're going to get our pawn to b4 and prevent him from covering the square again, or prevent him from going to the square. He needs to jump our knight out of the way. He needs to play f3 is basically the only move I'm thinking in this position. But now, notice that this was an option, so it really wasn't actually an option now I'm thinking about it. Okay, and he's decided to just give us the pawn. Which, I mean, sure. Thanks. Okay, free pawn. I like free pawns. If your opponent gives you a free pawn in chess, you just say thank you. And yeah, does our knight want to go back? Or does our knight want to go forward where it can go, attack the queen? I don't like this move here, queen over, so we're just going to drop our knight back. And we're going to drop our queen over. And we will take back if we have to, and we will. And look at the pieces that are left on the board. We've got this rook that's invading into his territory. We've got a queen that's on the file. Okay, and if we play this move here, I'm wondering what our opponent's plan is. Some sort of bishop discovery, maybe. But what is there to discover? Not really much. Okay. I'm not sure what our opponent's plan is here. It really doesn't make much sense to me. I think this bishop is just pinned now. Our queen is going to involve itself in the game. I might offer queen trade at c4. That might be my next move. Queen c4, it looks like a great move to me. Notice now that we've won this pawn, this knight is going to have permanent access to e4. It's the square that we always wanted for this knight. We're going to jump our queen into e4 here. Not e4, sorry, c4. If we do take, we do want to probably take with this b pawn here. Why? Well, it gives us opponent opportunity to advance this pawn and create activity for his bishop. We want this bishop to be stuck defending this pawn, so we're going to just take with this pawn if that happens. And now our opponent has decided to jump his queen back like that, and it looks like our knight is going to come in with tempo. And notice here he has to be very careful about his moves. Our rook looks like it's probably going to be going to g3, creating an attack on the pawn. And alright, we do see a tactical sequence here where we can win another pawn. Starts off with taking the knight, or taking the queen like this, and then when he takes our queen with his pawn, we take the pawn back and we're up a pawn. So we're also creating an attack on his bishop as well in that position. So I'm liking that. And our knight on c4 is a beautiful outposted piece. I mean, this knight is just an excellent piece. This is an excellent analogy for the tactical. It's called, I don't know if it's a tactical sequence. It's more of a positional idea called good knight versus bad bishop. We've got this knight, which is more versatilely placed than any of his pieces, basically. And now he's got this bishop that he's trying to make equal to the knight, but it just can't contend with our knight's vast amount of control over the board. And here we're going to see that the weakness of his pawns is going to be the killer for him. First, we're going to simplify. This good knight has done its job. It's been killing this bishop the whole game, and now it's literally going to kill this bishop. We're going to trade. His king's going to walk up, and we're going to play this move here, forking the pawns. And we're winning one of these pawns. He can't defend both of them. Both of them are hanging. Alright, and he allows us to take this one with check. And we're going to attack the next pawn. And we are up so many pawns in this position. And in these kind of positions, you want to have the more active king. We're going to start walking our king up. That is the plan. And now we are going to create an attack on this pawn here. Alright, and we can win this pawn. What else can we do? We can advance the pawns in the center of the board. That's also a great idea. I'm liking that. Let's just do that. Seems simple to me. There's so many things you can do in these kind of positions. Our opponent is just completely paralyzed. They have no pawns compared to us. We have so many pawns. Our rook's just going to go over here. We don't have to lose any of these pawns. We can just defend them all. We have peak amounts of luxury in this kind of position, really. Our opponent just does not have any options. We're going to be able to walk our pawns forward, marching them. And as they get closer and closer to promoting, our opponent is going to feel the squeeze. They're going to have less and less options to take advantage of. And yeah, first thing we're going to do here is advance our e-pawn. Now one thing we can do is jump our king forward. Or we can, even better, advance our rook up, giving a check. And yes, he can go to here, but we're gonna advance our e-pawn there. We're not concerned about our opponent in that position with his king getting more activity or anything like that. We are going to march the pawn, and his rook is kind of offsides here. He's decided to go on a venture to attack our pawns, but our king is defending a lot of our pawns. Our rook is defending the other pawns. And okay. We can just walk our king over. Notice he still doesn't have access to this file because of the pawn and the king. And our next two moves are going to be promoting if he doesn't stop us. How is he going to stop us? You tell me. I'm not really sure either. And yeah, he realizes that there's no stopping our pawn, and he resigns. So all right. Now this was a good game to understand positional ideas. In the Caro-Kann, the main idea of the opening is to not sacrifice your light square bishop's development, and to play for a more slow, normal scheme of development than you do in the French. Very comparable opening to the Caro-Kann. So here our opponent placed a lot of moves trying to trade off pieces, and you see we're actually slightly better in this kind of position. Why is that? Because we just have better development, and he spent more time developing than we have. He spent more moves on it, and we've actually just been getting our pieces much better placed. He spent all these moves moving his knights around, moving his pieces around, and we're just chilling. He's also made this weakness on the king side, which has made it difficult for him to castle king side. In fact, he literally cannot castle king side. So he was so eager to trade off our light squared bishop, but it actually just made our rook a good piece. He loses a good knight, we lose a good bishop. We actually gain an excellent rook, and he can't even castle now. So I think their gameplay was just a little bit off here. We decided to keep attacking, developing our pieces, trading off pieces. We have this excellent knight at the center of the board now. We put our rook on the open file. We do play a6, our opponent trades. And now we're threatening checkmate in one move, so our opponent has to defend, so they defend. And we play b5. b5 is a nice move. Of course, I told you guys the idea. b5 and then b4, you want to restrict the rook from coming to this square. And our opponent just blunders a pawn in one move. Kind of an interesting idea. And they apparently we could have just taken here like this. And this was disallowed because of just checkmate. Yep, that makes sense. So yeah, this was actually another hanging pawn. And I didn't notice that, and then our opponent literally blundered it without even a tactic. And we were able to trade off pieces here through some tactics. Opponent decided to attack our queen, but of course we are still winning here. We just go through this trade here. Opponent drops back. And of course, rook over is a good move, but I like knight takes d2. It just simplifies it, and we win a pawn here no matter what. Get our rook on a nice square, advance our king. We start advancing our pawns in the center, and our opponent realizes that there's no way to stop this pawn. This king cannot go back, king cannot go over. We're going to play this move and this move, and there's nothing our opponent can do. I guess he could block here, but his king is not in time. Rook cannot get back. And yeah, we are going to win the game every single time from this position because of our abundance of pawns. And opponents' pieces are just terribly placed. We see this rook is excellently placed defending and attacking. It's also blocking off all these squares here for the king, and the pawn is doing an excellent job as well. He takes here. We're just running the pawn. We're not worried. So yeah, just a idea of opening. You need to understand the ideology of your opening, and we understood here that the Caro-Kann is not about fast development. It's about quality development. And our opponent was trading off all our pieces, and we were able to equalize very easily, and eventually our better placed pieces were able to just win us the game pretty cleanly. And that's why I like the Caro-Kann. You get a lot of these clean wins where your opponent just kind of loses. They don't really do anything special. We didn't do much special. Our opponent just kind of lost because our pieces were better, and they felt very pressured to make an attack happen, and they weren't able to. So yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I love playing the Caro-Kann. I love making videos, and I'm going to continue doing it. And yeah, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. See ya.